evening. Welcome to the Kent City Council meeting for January 19th, 2021. Want to start with a reminder that this is a remote meeting due to the coronavirus pandemic and the governor's order regarding gathering and in-person meetings. A live broadcast of this meeting is available on our cable channel, Kent TV 21, as well as the City of Kent Facebook page and our YouTube channel at Kent TV 21. There is also a call-in option for those wishing to dial in to listen to the meeting this evening. With that, the meeting, we will call it to order. And Kim, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Ralph?
Here.
Council President Troutner?
Here.
Councilmember Boyce?
Here.
Councilmember Fincher?
Here.
Councilmember Core?
Here.
Councilmember Larmer?
Here.
Councilmember Michaud?
Here.
Councilmember Thomas?
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kim. Item number 3 this evening is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda from council members or staff?
No changes from staff this evening.
All right. Seeing no changes, is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All right. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries, agenda stands. Item number 4 is public communications. We've got several items this evening. The first one falling under public recognition is a proclamation for Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Day. This is one of the more sobering but important proclamations that we do on an annual basis. I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation and talk about a little bit about the work that Kent is doing in this area. So the proclamation says, whereas human trafficking is a modern day slavery and involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to exploit a person for involuntary servitude, labor, or commercial sex acts. And whereas trafficking victims can be of any gender, age, or immigration status, and whereas the average age of the girl exploited, coerced, or forced into abuse is 12 to 14 years old, while boys are 11 to 13. And whereas each year, many as 100 to 300,000 American children are at risk of being trafficked in the United States, and whereas traffickers may be strangers, acquaintances, or family members, and target young victims through social media, chat groups, and the everyday activities in the community. And whereas after drug dealing, human trafficking is tied with the illegal arms industry as the second largest criminal industry in the world and the fastest growing. And whereas assisting victims of human trafficking requires a coordinated community response among community groups, social services, school, and law enforcement, now therefore I, Dana Ralph, Mayor of Kent, do hereby proclaim that January 23rd, 2021 is Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Day in the City of Kent, and call upon the people of Kent to support this observance by helping to educate residents about human trafficking in our city, as well as America and around the world. So like I said, very sobering statistics, extremely sad to think about our youngest kids having the potential of being caught up into human trafficking and all that goes along with that. I want to say that I'm extremely proud of the work that our police department does in this arena in partnership with Kent Youth and Family Services, with a human trafficking advocate that does direct outreach to the victims of trafficking. And I also want to remind people that they truly are victims, whether they're 13 or whether they're 25. People that are drawn into this world for a variety of reasons, they're victims. And I'm proud of the fact that in the City of Kent, we see them that way, and we work with our partners to help create survivors. That's the best part. And just want to remind everyone that's watching today, pay attention. There's signs and signals, and we can watch and take care of not only our own kids, but the kids that we see around us. And if you have concerns that something like this might be going on, and with all of the technology, there's lots of ways that people looking to do harm to our kids can get into their lives. So pay attention, be vigilant, see something, say something, just like we always say, and keep this in mind, not only on this day, but going forward. So we'll leave that subject there. We'll move on to community events. Council President Troutner, do you have any community events?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have any events to share this evening.
All right. Any other community events from council? All right, I'm not seeing any hands. I do want to remind everyone that Thursday, so 2 days from now at 6 p.m., the City of Kent Community Education Unit and our police department, along with our youth board, our Kent Police Youth Board, are putting on a program at 6 o'clock called Mental Health for Dinner. And it's really going to be a presentation providing our young adults with some coping skills. If you think about all of the impacts of the pandemic and what's going on and how hard it is for us as adults to navigate this world when we've lost the connections that we normally get in our day-to-day life, whether it be going to work or social events, you put that pressure on to our young adults, and it's pretty significant impact. So we've got a free event coming up, partnered with a national speaker, Houston Kraft. He's pretty amazing. He's been here for several of our youth board Game of Life conferences. I strongly encourage you to log in. Again, it's a free event. You can find more information on our City of Kent and Kent Police Department Facebook pages. Register and or pass the information on to any young adults or parents that you think might be interested. With that, we will move to the last item under public communications, and that's our public safety report. And joining us this evening is Chief Padilla.
Oh, let's see. Good. It took me a while to get that pause button off there. Well, good evening, everybody. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, it's my pleasure to bring you tonight's public safety report. Thank you, Kim, for bringing up the PowerPoint there. We'll get right into it. I want to start with introducing our newest corrections officer. We did a swearing in because of COVID restrictions at the jail facility last week, I believe, of our newest corrections officer, Officer Roshni Anderson. And I just want to, though she's been sworn in already by the mayor, I just want to take a little time to introduce her to the community. Roshni was born in Moses Lake and grew up most of her life here in Covington in the Kent area. She lived with her mother and her two older brothers. She enjoyed spending time with her family, and she wanted to know that she grew up in a diverse family where her mother is Indian from Fiji and her father is from Idaho and he's Caucasian. And she wanted to put in her bio here that she very much values and respects what culture and community brings to the table. She went to Kent Lake High School and graduated in 2016. Attended Western University for a while before going to Green River College and completing her associate's degree in nursing. Prior to becoming a police officer, she was a full-time student and worked as a legal process server during college. We asked her why she chose Kent, and she said that Kent has been a huge part of her life. This is somewhere where she's inclined to go to give back and serve the community that she benefited from. I think that's outstanding. She enjoys competitive for fun. We asked her what she does for fun or what's interesting about her. She enjoys competitive powerlifting and started competing about 2 years ago. She qualified for both the national and world events in both categories, and she plans to continue her competition in 2021, presuming that's allowed with all the things going on with COVID. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce Officer Roshni Anderson. Next slide, please, Kim. All right. Next up, I want to present a couple awards of citizen accommodation, Chiefs Awards of Citizen Accommodation. As you know, a lot of our success in terms of serving the community is gauged directly on community members who get involved in various ways. But in tonight's examples, there's two different awards. These community members got involved to help us take people into custody who had committed crimes. And one was a very serious violent crime, a robbery, and we'll talk about that. So whenever we get the opportunity to thank people and recognize them that step up to this level, we are very pleased to do so. And so tonight I want to talk about a couple of recent incidents. We did present these awards prior, and so I'm sharing the circumstances for everyone here. So on the first award that you see on your slide there, it goes to Security Officer Jack Rio. He works for Dauntless Security. Our officers back on September 23rd were are trying to stop a occupied stolen vehicle. During that incident, one of the suspects got out of the vehicle and fled on foot and actually jumped down a dark embankment into the Green River, which is dangerous for a lot of reasons. Officers were having a hard time working through the brush and locating him, trying to get him out. Dauntless security officer who was working nearby responded and offered assistance using his FLIR-equipped unmanned aerial system, aka aerial drone. The officers took him up on his offer, and he got to work, got his drone up, and was able to locate the suspect for us, kind of vector the officers in, and we were able to get him out of the water, which was dangerous for him, but also take him safely into custody without injury to him or the officers. And very much so that happened because he got involved and helped us out. So we're very thankful for that. We want to say that he's being commended for taking actions to assist our officers, locating, apprehending, and really stepping up and doing his civic duty when he saw an opportunity to do so. So we're very thankful to him. We presented the award to him. In the photo there is the owner of Dauntless and one of his coworkers, and it was one of those great opportunities to say thanks and give back. So we did. So that's the first award. And it was a great job. On the second award, thanks Kim for switching the slide there. This one involved an armed robbery of purse snatching up at the Great Wall Mall. And it was a little bit scary there because there was a considerable fight involved in this incident. So tonight we are recognizing, or we have recognized and awarded, but talking about the efforts of Mr. Scott Lynn, Mr. Glenn Lynn, and Mr. Nestor Castillo Valdez. And here's what they did. Back on October 29th, 2020, a suspect committed a strong arm robbery at the Great Mall. He was basically doing a purse snatching. He took off from there. During the struggle with the female he took the purse from, he did injure her, pushed her to the ground and all of that. Several witnesses observed the people that were shopping there, but three in particular, as you see on the screen there, got involved. They quickly went. The man was running away. They chased him down, and they literally got him and held him down until police officers could respond and take over the scene and get him in custody. Obviously, they put themselves at risk, and that's always a tricky situation. But in this particular case, they took action, and we just want to say thank you. The chances of us catching this male at the time were probably half as good, if even that, if they hadn't taken action. So we just think that it was an incredible, selfless thing they did. They wanted to help a fellow community member, and so they are being commended for those actions. And as you see in the picture, we had them come in the lobby individually so we could social distance, and we presented them the awards. And like I said, these are just community members, just happened to be up at the Great Wall and took action to assist. So we're very grateful for that. So please congratulate them with me on this. Next up, many of you may have seen some of the media on this, but I wanted to provide an update on the unfortunate and very tragic circumstance related to a fatal collision that stemmed from an armed robbery. So back on Saturday evening, just after midnight, our officers were dispatched to an armed robbery up on the East Hill Mart. What was notable about that is just an hour prior, there was an armed robbery nearby at the McChevron gas station, and the description on the robberies matched the same person. And the information in both of the robberies was that the suspect presented a pistol when committing the robbery and demanded various things. Officers responding to the second robbery, one of the officers located a vehicle that was rapidly leaving the area at a high rate of speed. The officer believed it might have been related to the robbery, so got behind it, followed it for a bit, decided to try and stop it, but the vehicle took off from the officer and at a very high rate of speed. Short distance later, probably less than 2 miles down the road, the suspect lost control of his vehicle, left the roadway and struck a tree, and was ejected in the collision from the vehicle. There was significant injury and unfortunately died from his injuries as a result of the collision. The officers arrived on scene. They did attempt life-saving first aid, but it was not of avail. Firefighters were called as well to try advanced techniques, and unfortunately he did not survive. It's a sad situation. Officers did their best, and like we said, they also searched the area as is typical, and they did locate a handgun that may have been used in the robberies. We're still working to confirm that nearby. And they did also confirm in the video surveillance from the first robbery that we are certain that it was the same male who committed the robbery who died in the fatal collision. So very sad circumstance. Because our officers were involved, although the evidence indicates at this point they had zero contact in terms of trying to stop the pursuit physically with their cars. We did call in King County Sheriff's Office to do the collision investigation. I thought it's important that we have a third party do an independent investigation, so that is underway. And so that's a tragic event. I know it was out in the media, so I just wanted to provide an update on that. And so the investigation continues with that. Next slide, please, Kim. I also wanted to talk about an interesting and potentially lethal event that happened on our city campus, and I'm very glad it turned out without any injuries or serious damage to property, but it was dangerous, and I wanted to discuss it real quick. Back on Monday, January 11th, we had an unknown male, show up at City Hall campus, and he walked over to where we have some of our unmarked vehicles parked, lit a Molotov cocktail basically from his backpack and threw it under a police car. And fortunately for us, there was no one in the car, no one near the car, and even more fortunate, there were other people that were observing this. And so we knew about it right away. Interesting, we had two people watching this happen that called right away for police to respond, one of whom was actually doing a phone report for a theft case, and was talking to an officer at the time this was occurring. So the officer was made aware right away. Fortunately, we got the information. Officers went out there. The male waited basically for officers to get there, and thankfully complied with orders and was taken into custody without any struggle, and certainly without any injury. When they got the male, he had a backpack. The backpack was soaked in some kind of flammable liquid, smelled like kerosene or gas. It turned out he had another Molotov cocktail ready to go that had broken prior to that. And he had some weapons in there, knives and things of that sort. It's a very confusing situation. We do believe at this point that, we don't have any indication as to what the motive was. With everything going on in the country, there could be lots of speculations regarding motive, political things and that. And I just want to be clear, we don't have any indication that he's related to anything. We do think there may be some mental health issues at play here, and we're looking into that, and the case is being investigated by our detectives. There is an outside chance that the case may be turned over to federal law enforcement simply because there were prior history and prior events of arson with this individual, but that's where the case is now. So that got resolved. I'm very thankful that he did surrender, and that I'm even more thankful that nobody was hurt. The fire didn't spread to anybody, and so that worked out. But it was a notable incident I wanted to make sure we covered. Next, Kim, please. And we are coming to wrapping up some of our end of the year crime stats. And so I wanted to give a final report on this in terms of just some of the numbers of what we've seen. And I've been indicating throughout most of the year that we were seeing a very alarming trend in terms of spike of crime. And so here are the numbers that you can see in front of you. Hopefully you can see. Looking at the categories that the ones we predominantly measure amongst others, we were up in every category and significantly up in some of the more concerning crimes. On the good side of things, we're down 26% in robberies. I think that has a lot to do with the COVID situation. There are less people out, less opportunity. So I think that's a direct trend there. Although we do work hard on those, the robberies are more of a crime of opportunity. And so prevention is really, really difficult, but that is down. We're up in vehicle prowls, up 16%, which is notable because it was high prior. We're up in vehicle thefts as well there, vehicle recoveries, which is the number of stolen vehicles that we locate in our city and get back to their owners. And that was up, and which makes sense, right? Thieves take a car from one area, dump a car in another area, and several of those are being dumped here in Kent. Residential burglaries was another category that were down. And I think, again, this is a lot to do with the COVID situation. People are home. You have less homes that are not occupied. It's a greater risk for people that would break in. And so I think that's why you see the trend, although the numbers are still not great, 298 this year. Commercial burglaries up again significantly. We have a lot of businesses that are not as well populated in our industrial area, and we've been seeing that trend. We have made several arrests for burglary, but we continue to see this, and there's some impacts in the criminal justice system that correlate to that I'll discuss here shortly. Aggravated assaults, these are assaults that are of felony level. That means that the injuries were significant enough to charge as a felony. Those are up 39%. I know we have been monitoring our domestic violence assaults, and there were questions about that. It's not on this chart, but I did take a look at the numbers. We ended up almost flat, the same numbers as 2019, maybe a percentage point higher, but very, very little difference. Several arrests made for DV assault, but the number of cases remain the same, and we're still not completely sure why that is. And last, and probably most concerning, our shootings in the city of Kent are up 54%. We had 117 incidents reported to the police through 911 this year, and so that's up quite a bit.
Chief, Councilmember Core has a question.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Chief. My question is, I guess, about vehicle thefts. Most people are home and have their cars in their driveway. So just trying to understand how we've seen a spike in that. And the shootings, that's a significant increase.
Yes, thank you for that question. So some of the things going on related to COVID impacts have modified the way we have to do business in the criminal justice system. So currently, as we've talked about, we are keeping our jail population, our inmate populations, only to those that absolutely need to be in jail. And I'll just be very blunt. In Superior Court in King County Jail, auto theft is considered a property crime. So although we are making arrests for auto theft, they are not being held in jail. And in some cases, they're not spending more than just initial booking processing, and they're being released. And these are what we see with our auto thieves and some of our property crimes is they're prolific, and with there not being an incarceration. And further compounding that is that their cases are held up. We are several thousand cases behind because of COVID has not allowed for court processes to occur. So there's this huge backup. There's not incarceration. And so you're seeing criminals basically take advantage of that because they know it'll be a year or two before they go to court for any of their crimes. And in the meantime, unfortunately, it's a little bit of open season on committing crime. You're seeing that with the commercial burglaries as well. So some of these things are COVID driven. And then, there's the greater issue about whether there is enough accountability in terms of repeat offenders for property crimes, because that is a huge debate. And there's some administrative movements that have been done by the courts and the prosecutor's office that limit the ability to, incarcerate people for property crimes. So that's the information. It's unfortunate. Hopefully once COVID is passed, we can get back to holding people a little more accountable, but it's going to be very interesting to see how we work through the thousands and thousands of cases that are awaiting trial. Any other questions on this before I get to the shooting part of it to answer Councilmember Core's question?
Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Voice.
Sorry about that. Hey, Chief, I know that you keep data on the aggravated assault, but not DV. Do you have data on DV cases?
We do, and we track it in a separate category. And like I said, I pulled the numbers, and we were flat on that. I can speak to the specific I can get you the specific numbers at a later time. Generally, we consolidate them all into one category, and this report had it separated. So we use this for a lot of our state and national reporting, which is why it's formatted this way.
Okay, thank you. I might have missed that, so sorry about that. Thank you.
No worries. Okay. Kim,
1 second here, Chief. Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief, do you have, this might be on another slide, homicide rate?
yes, I do. And Kim, if you could click to the next slide there. So here's our numbers specifically to what we call verified shootings. And verified shootings are designed and where in some way or shape or form, we confirm someone used a firearm to shoot off rounds and either hit a building or hit a person. So you're looking at the 4-year trend there. For homicides, we were flat. 4 is still way too many, and I want to say that up front, but it is lower than previous years if you look at that. And that's not our total homicides. Those are the homicides that were used for, that a firearm was used in. So we have some other homicides that were not related to firearms. I believe our total is 8 for the year, but I can double check on those numbers. So we had 33 people injured by being shot but did not die. We had 32 incidents where property was shot up. A lot of those are cars. We're seeing a steady, unfortunate trend where kind of either related to road rage incidents and things of that nature, people are using their firearms to settle their conflict, which is really scary and unfortunate. And then 48 of the calls were incidents where people called 911 and they verified for sure that there was people shooting a gun. They may not have hit anything, but the officers responded and were able to verify and recover evidence at the scene that supported it. So usually shell casings that indicated, yep, someone was in the area and they left these shell casings from the bullets behind. And so we know we had a shooting. So these are the numbers. A lot of it, again, is some of the trends we're seeing in the impact to the criminal justice system right now. Some of it is we are seeing a very unnerving trend in our demographic from 18 to 25, and some younger being more and more involved in using firearms to commit violence. And so those are some of the impacts there. I'll take questions. I'll go ahead and pause for questions at that point.
I don't see any additional hands, Chief.
Okay. So, this isn't great news. I do want to add that King County has released their last quarter report, and I'll bring that to a future meeting. I did get a chance to look at the draft report, and I can tell you the numbers are very similar for the entire South King County and Seattle area. Double-digit increases in violent crime throughout the region. And so it's a big issue. It's something that, we're going to continue to work really hard to address and prevent if we can. The only good news I have to bring in this regard is that we are clearing a high percentage of our cases, which means we're actually solving the crimes and putting people or holding them accountable, and they're awaiting process through the courts. So like everything else. I also want to make it clear, anyone that shoots a firearm and is involved in a violent crime is being put in jail still. That is an exception to the COVID rule, but otherwise most people aren't being held. So, and with that, last slide, I believe, Kim. All right. So there has been some recent events that, in addition to the work that we have ongoing in the space of race and equity, that have come to light, that give us an opportunity to have a discussion and for me to provide detailed information on some of the things being shown on social media and whatnot. I very much look forward to that opportunity, and we're scheduling that for the next Council of the Whole meeting next Tuesday, and we'll cover those in detail. So I would invite everyone to tune in and get the information and get the rest of what happened in some of those incidents. So I also want to note that we have an upcoming advisory board, Kent Police Race and Equity Advisory Board meeting on the 27th, and we'll be discussing these issues along with our new charter and some of the great work we're doing in regards to policy. So, little preview for what's to come. And Madam Mayor, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you, Chief. I'm not seeing any hands raised at
Oh.
this. Oh, Councilmember Thomas.
That's weird. So, Chief, in light of the Seahawks losing the other day, a lot of fireworks were let off. Also on New Year's Eve, obviously, a lot of fireworks. How many arrests do you think were made on those days?
On the day that the Seahawks were playing, I'd have to look up that information. Are you mean,
Okay, let's just go with New Year's Eve then.
are you referring to fireworks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm unaware of any at all for fireworks.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? All right, thank you very much, Chief.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Good night. Okay, we will move on to item number 5, which is reports from council and staff. It's an opportunity for all of us to share with the community the work that's being done representing the city of Kent outside of the council meetings and the committee of the whole meetings. Couple of highlights I can share from the last several weeks. Transportation Policy Board, I sit on as the vice chair at Puget Sound Regional Council. The board did recommend approximately $14.4 million in grant funding to the West Seattle Bridge. We know that that is a regional, it's a road of regional significance, actually does have impact here on us in Kent as freight getting from the port into our valley or the other way around. So that recommendation will go to the executive board at PSRC in a couple of weeks. Had the opportunity last week to testify in front of both the Senate Ways and Means Committee and the House Appropriations Committee in support of streamlined sales tax. Conversation we've had quite a bit here at Council. We were able to get that passed last year through the legislature, and then the governor vetoed it, that mitigation funding. So the request is, again, for the legislature either to fund that through the budget or possibly running a bill again this session. So we'll keep you posted on that. But along with the mayors of Fife, Auburn, and Issaquah, we testified in front of both of those committees. Continue to stay engaged very closely with King County Public Health, both through updates through Director Patty Hayes and in one-on-one conversations. What I can share at this point is that we are working very closely with King County on the upcoming need for mass vaccination. So we should have some more to share shortly on that, but we are making sure that the county is aware of our desire to partner in making sure that not only our residents are vaccinated quickly and as efficiently as possible, but residents of the region. Also working with the RFA on their ability to help by standing up what are being called strike teams to go into our long-term nursing facilities and adult family homes to make sure that our most vulnerable populations are being vaccinated. So all of those things are starting to come together, and we'll be able to share hopefully some positive outcomes. I continue to say, we had a rocky start in that relationship with King County at the beginning through the Econo Lodge and the isolation and quarantine facility. And I would love to see us end on a much more positive note by making sure that those that want and need to be vaccinated have that opportunity right here in our community. With that, I am going to turn it over to our Chief Administrative Officer, Derrick Matson.
All right, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. A few items here. I've mentioned our upcoming City Council retreat at the last couple of meetings, so I have to do it one more time here. That is scheduled for Friday, February 5th from noon to 5 p.m. That's in an online format, and in lieu of our usual 2-day retreat, we'll do a 1-day online retreat in February and then another day later in the year. The agenda is starting to come together, and it looks like some of our topics will be our vision, mission, and goals, the committee of the whole format, boards and commissions, rental housing protections, communications, and House Bill 1590. That's the 1/10 of 1% sales tax for affordable housing and related services. The leadership team talked today about packet materials to support your discussions, and we look forward to issuing that probably early to mid next week. The mayor mentioned streamlined sales tax, and I was just going to remind everyone of our legislative priorities this year, now that the legislature's in the midst of its 105-day session. So our priorities, in addition to streamlined sales tax, include race and equity, the 228th, 224th, 218th corridor, Meet Me on Meeker, Gateway to Kent, which we sometimes call the Willis Street Greenway, and a Panther Lake Community Park. And in addition to all of our priorities, staff are busy reviewing a lot of bills and providing input to our lobbyist. Also wanted to mention next week, our new interim race and equity manager, Uriel Varela, will be at your committee of the whole meeting, where he will present an initial process for putting together an equity strategic plan and policy. So council will have an opportunity to hear his thoughts and provide feedback and direction. For the first time in I think a few months, we have an executive session this evening. The topic is litigation. Expected time is 15 minutes and no action when we reconvene in open session. And the rest of my report is in your packet. So thank you very much.
All right.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Derrick, is that meeting 12 to 5? I thought I saw something come out today from 12 to 6 on the 5th. So is it 12 to 5 meeting?
Officially, it's 12 to 5. We may have sent out an appointment a little bit on the back end in case we run long, but it's officially 12 to 5.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Council President Troutner, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had workshop earlier this evening, and we had several presentations. The first presentation was a communications update. And just a reminder again that these are available online, so you can go back and watch them. I highly recommend watching this in particular. It gives us a great look back at 2020 and all the things that were accomplished through the communications department. Some things were pre-COVID, and then a majority of the things that we accomplished during this pandemic. The State of the City address that the mayor had at Blue Origin. We've had a massive campaign during COVID with mass distribution. In fact, over 4,400 masks have been distributed. 44,000 masks have been distributed, and 20,000 bottles of hand sanitizer have been distributed, along with mailers, social media ads. You've seen road signs and digital boards, just trying to communicate to everyone out there to stay safe, wear your mask, and take care of each other. There's a lot of other highlights in that update, and then also things that are going to be happening in 2021 with the mayor's State of the City. For 2021, there'll be some formal communication plans, expanding online services, revamping our neighborhood council, and also working to make our boards and commissions better. So lots of things coming up through the communications department. We also had a short presentation on the Kent Housing Option Plan, which is better known as KHOP. We are looking at strategies for easing supply restrictions. We keep having the conversation about missing that middle income housing options that include affordability and variety. So we're looking at options that may allow for duplexes, triplexes, maybe 4 to 6 unit developments, and also accessory dwelling units. So we've given that group some things to look at and then report back to council. We also had a very quick presentation on the downtown Sandor garage. And as many of you know, there's plans to install that 534 stall garage, which will also give local bus access, pedestrian and traffic improvements. And right now, because of COVID, Sound Transit is really looking at a lot of their projects, including this in particular. As you can imagine, this has caused some issues with financing and other impacts that are causing them to reprioritize projects in general. And this is one of those that they are looking at. So we're anxious to hear back how we fit into that plan. I also sit on the Regional Transit Committee. We meet tomorrow afternoon, and the Regional Law, Safety, and Justice Committee will meet on January 28th. With that, I will look to my colleagues to see what they have been up to, and I will start with Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Council President. I serve on the Kent Human Services Commission, and we have a meeting on Thursday at 3. And that meeting will have 3 public hearings. The first is on amendments to the Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan for 2019. And those amendments are mostly dealing with additional CARES Act funding, adding that in there. And the second one is on the Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan for 2021. And the third public hearing is for the 2020 through 2024 Community Development Block Grant Citizen Participation Plan. So the public is welcome to attend those meetings and give feedback. You can go online and look at the agenda and get more information about that. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Michaud. Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you. I serve as the chair for Puget Sound Clean Air Agency Advisory Council. We had our meeting on January 14th, and we talked about transportation climate planning. We basically had a presentation from the staff and some of the priorities we have. 3 ways to look at fuel changes, more changes, and transport technology changes, how they will impact our goals. And some of the other things, some of scenarios, it's a presentation you can watch on the website on Puget Sound Clean Air Agency Advisory Council. And some of our focus areas are clean fuel standard policy, GMA reform to include clean fuel standards, carbon pricing, air quality, and how telework has impacted our emission reductions, and having that as a priority for the legislature to look at, maybe having conversations with major companies in our state to have telework as one of the permanent changes. We also had presentation on some of the bills that are in legislature right now related to climate change, and how we can, as a board, support them. So we'll be having our meeting again in next couple of months. I also serve on Growth Management Planning Council. We'll be meeting next week. And serve on Domestic Violence Initiative Regional Task Force. We won't be meeting for a while. I've also been attending meetings with King County Public Health along with Mayor Ralph, with Director Patty Hayes, organized by Sound City Associations. And I've also been attending weekly meetings with King County Public Health, which they're on faith-based organizations. So they're mostly for different faith-based organizations in our King County, how they're impacting and how King County can support them in reducing the numbers of COVID. So those have been very informational, learning about how churches and different temples and mosques are they're seeking support, and how they're changing the way they hold their services, and we're helping reduce COVID numbers. So those have been very, very helpful. And I think that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Larmer.
Thank you, Council President. I sit on the King County Affordable Housing Committee, and we will be meeting next Friday, I believe it is, next week. And so I'll have a report on that next meeting. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Boyce.
Thank you, Madam President. We had a meeting last week with Pitt. I am the Vice Chair of Sound City Association. Had a great meeting. We had opportunity to, I guess you call it orientation, with COVID, had to be online, but I think it really went extremely well. Really, we talked about our mission and value and vision for Sound City, one of our guiding principle, responsibility of the board. We had our outgoing president, Mayor Dana Rath, share a few words, and which I think those words can apply to us as she asks the people at the meeting to think about these things here. And one of them is always assume positive intent, good intent, when people are talking. Also talk about no surprises, right? Make sure, people's aware if there's something you want, talk to the staff. In this case, Deanna, who is the director at Sound City Association. also having each other back. And as we make decisions, think about who's not at the table. Be candid and also kind. So I thought that was good word to share, doing orientation for new members coming on board, but those things apply to us at our meeting and also to us in our day-to-day life. We also heard from Ed Prince, who is the incoming Sound City Association president. Ed is a very good friend of mine and really a special guy. And his vision is really to continue on the racial and social adjustment series that have been going on throughout last year. I know Councilmember Fincher and myself was part of those, and really he's want to be able to continue those. And also, he also going to be doing luncheon with him as the SCA president. So I think one may be coming up this Friday here, but for the most part, great meeting. Lots of new people, new members was on the orientation. Councilmember Fincher was there as well. So I thought the meeting went extremely well. So that's all I have to share. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyce. And I really appreciate you talking about those guiding principles, because that is something that we're going to be looking at our retreat. So really good words to look at. Councilmember Thomas, do you have anything to share?
Thank you, Madam President. A little bit. We haven't been real active this past month, obviously, but we do want to begin the new year tomorrow at 5:30 out at station number 78 in Covington. And that'll be, like I say, at 5:30 if anybody wants to join us. That's all I have.
And that would be for the Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority.
Along with Your Honor, Madam President, and also Councilmember Boyce. Sorry about that, you guys.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas. Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Council President. Looking forward, that's the new theme for our latest Kent Creates art format that we have, that platform. That goes through April 30th. So the last time around, we have now chosen the 5 winners. And what's interesting, what I really liked about this batch is some of the winners were had submitted art that was illustrated. We had watercolor. We had music and dance. So a musician created a musical piece and put dancers to it. So that it was a completely original piece, which was really nice. So there was a photograph, there was mixed media. So there was a variety of different entries. So that was nice to see, and different styles of winners. So people have until April 30th to submit your entries, and those entries would go to kentcreates.com, and it's anything that you consider art. So if you write poetry, if you sing, whatever you can consider art can be entered there. We also have coming forward, looks like there will be another King County Cultural Access measure that is being looked at right now. Last time it was quite Seattle-centric. So last time it came out, the measure failed. This time they're looking at getting more of the dollars that would come in with that measure out into other areas of the county. So they're going to give that another go. We'll see if it's going to be a ballot measure, if they'll make changes and make it councilmatic, exactly how they're going to do that. Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Advisory Committee, we meet next week. And then we have KCD, King Conservation District. Right now we are just reviewed and are giving our reviewed the food program grants, and we're going to be passing those suggestions on to the supervisory board for their approval. And we are now just getting the kickoff going, pulling the group together who will be looking at the urban forestry grants. So that is beginning to form, and then we will move on from there. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Fincher. And just one more shout out to communications. They're doing a great job, as I mentioned, and you may be enjoying these new backgrounds that a lot of us council members are using this evening. That's thanks to communications at our multimedia department. So thank you. And Madam Mayor, that ends our reports.
All right. Thank you, Madam President. We will move on in our agenda. Item number 6 is public hearings. We do not have any this evening. Item number 7 is public comment. our residents have the opportunity to dial in or call into this meeting and provide their comment to the council. Kim, do we have anyone signed up for public comment this evening? All right, thank you. Just as a reminder, you can reach out to our city clerk or the council if you would like to sign up to speak during our council meetings. Item number 8 is the consent calendar. It's a compilation of items, issues, and ordinances that the council has considered during committee of the whole in the previous weeks. They've passed out of committee of the whole without any controversy. So they're compiled into the consent calendar. Council President, do you have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to approve the consent calendar items A through E.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Item number 9 is other business. We do not have any other business or bids this evening, so that brings us down to item number 11, executive session. The council will go into executive session for approximately 15 minutes to discuss current or potential litigation. There will not be any action when the council reconvenes after that executive session. So at this point, I will have Kim, our clerk, go ahead and take control and make sure that only those that are going to be in the executive session remain on the call, and we will be back in about 15 minutes. Good evening. The council has returned from executive session discussing litigation. We are coming up, as Councilmember Thomas is pointing out, on 8:30. We have no additional business tonight as there's no action following executive session. Want to wish everyone a good, happy week. We're hearing maybe snow in the forecast for this weekend. So if that's the case, stay safe. Keep an eye on all of our social media channels for weather updates and the like. And with that, have a good evening. We are adjourned.
Good night, all.